Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SADS Live. It's great to get to be with you again. Here, I'm coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee, where behind me in my hotel room looks like somebody, you might know who it is, I'm not sure, but an harmonica. So that's the backdrop because we're here for Mayo Clinic's genetic heart disease course, our sixth annual one, and it's our first live in-person course since the COVID pandemic shut us all down. So we're really excited here at Mayo Clinic Cardiology to be back doing this again. So we're making progress, everyone. I'm Mike Ackerman, genetic cardiologist from the Mayo Clinic and director of its Winland Smith Rice Genetic Heart Rhythm Clinic and the complementary Winland Smith Rice Sudden Death Genomics Laboratory. I'm again here like we are almost every Friday for a year and a half on behalf of Alice Laura, who gives her greetings, who is our CEO of the Sudden Arrhythmia Death Syndrome, the SADS Foundation. And as you know, the SADS Foundation is here. We're dedicated and devoted to families in the United States, North America, and throughout the globe who are at risk of sudden cardiac death from genetic heart conditions like long QT syndrome, CPVT, Brugada syndrome, ARVC. So we're here for you. So hopefully you've enjoyed being part of the SADS Foundation. You've gotten to know the SADS Foundation. You've benefited from us here at the SADS Foundation providing these, what was every Friday and now moved to 2 Fridays a month, our program. So I'm looking forward to see who's joined us today and joining us with your questions if we have time. It's a special program today. And so we're going to kind of skip the COVID-19 pandemic numbers. Yeah, there's a lot of numbers. So get vaccinated if you're eligible. Stay masked where it makes sense. Do not fear. Where the Delta surge is we're heading down on surge number 4. So I think progress is being made. Life is being sort of back to normal. And for me, it feels normal. I got on a plane, at a trip, doing this meeting thing. And so wherever you are here in the United States, whatever time zone you're here, you're joining us across the globe, great to have you. This month of October is Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness Month. And obviously our SADS families, you have a lot of awareness. You have a reason to because you know directly. Some have experienced tragically the sudden cardiac arrest potential and even the tragic sudden cardiac death potential of your genetic heart condition. Others are blindsided by sudden cardiac death. And we know in the United States, for example, that every day there are about 1,000 sudden cardiac deaths a day. Now, the vast majority of those sudden cardiac deaths come in the elderly. They're because of coronary artery disease that can result in myocardial infarction and a heart attack. But that myocardial infarction triggers death and sudden death by the electrical chaos, the ventricular fibrillation, that danger rhythm that coronary artery disease process creating the myocardial infarction precipitated or caused. Now, for our SADS families, that's not the underlying cause of your sudden cardiac death risk. Your underlying cause is your genetic heart condition, whether the name of your genetic heart condition is long QT syndrome or CPVT or Brugada syndrome. So we need to create greater awareness about the signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest and sudden cardiac death. What is the rapid chain of survival plan to, if somebody goes down, what do you do? How do we get them back and get them back pronto for the chain of survival so that they don't join that 1,000-person a day number? And so to unpack some of the issues of sudden cardiac arrest risk within the families that I get to take care of, and with those who are out there who don't know that they might have a ticking time bomb lurking. It's great for me to bring on the Peponi family and hear their story and their journey with their specific genetic heart condition, what our treatment drill has been for it, and then what was the bonus benefit of the treatment program that we put in place for them. So Erin, our awesome, incredible wizard, she's going to bring on the Piccone family, and here they are. So we have Father Jeff, Mother Joanna, and Jackson, who looking good for what I understand is a homecoming date. Jackson's looking great. Thanks for joining us, the Piccone family. So greetings, and let's jump right on in and having you tell us, when did your journey and awareness begin with knowing that you might be at risk for the possibility of sudden cardiac arrest? Give us sort of the timeline of your story.
It was pretty much at birth. He was, I think it was the day we were supposed to go home from the hospital. It was 2 days after he was born, or the day after he was born. And they decided to put him in the NICU. And
when he would cry, he would turn a bluish color, a dusky color, and that's when they started running the tests. And the EKGs came out, as they said, a little prolonged, borderline. And for years, that's where he stayed. They kept saying he was borderline, but when the cardiologist would read it, they would say, well, it's still within normal limits, until he was 12.
About 3 years ago.
Yes.
About 3 years ago, yes. He went in just for testing to see where he stands with it with a local cardiologist, and she immediately wanted to put a monitor on him and schedule some sort of surgery. And that's when we sought you out. And coincidentally, she knew of you.
So I'm glad she pointed you in our direction at Mayo. And when you come, what have we learned together about Jackson and your heart condition? What did we ultimately decide was going on?
Well, when we heard what she wanted us to do, I mean, nothing was set up, no surgeries were set up at that time. So we decided to continue doing what he always does, playing ball. He loves sports. So we decided to go out and buy an AED just to have it there with him.
And then that's when we came to you, probably not too long after that. And we both had genetic testing done where we both had some variants for prolonged QT. And then we did quite a few tests in about a 2-day time span with you. And you probably could say it better than us, what you thought was going on with us. But that's when you had said that we both have probably bileaflet mitral valve prolapse. And it just kind of can fool the EKG and a lot of the tests that were going on. He had some other symptoms, but they weren't consistent with what you said you would see in prolonged QT.
Yeah, and I know, so it kind of was one of those long QT teaser journeys where we ultimately came up with a different diagnosis. As many of the families know, that you've been through your own journey of being told you had one thing, and some of you then ultimately were told you have nothing wrong with you. Others have been told that, yes, there's something going on, but we have the wrong name. So getting the diagnosis correct is really important. And I know, Jeff, you pointed up the AED and you showed one of those automatic external defibrillators. And one of our, Farron, who's joining us live, is asking, is the AED considered a false hope for families? And so I'd be curious, so many of you all know that for our kids, that besides establishing a definitive treatment program, if I think you need it, whether that's a beta blocker or a denervation surgery or implanting a defibrillator, we have sort of our overarching, what we call our safety net, right? Our sudden death safety net. And for our families, we have said that that's an automatic external defibrillator that's part of the safety gear. Just like somebody with life-threatening peanut allergies would have an EpiPen as part of their safety gear. So when you were equipped with the AED, did you feel that that was false hope? or did you feel that that was just part of the drill, that here is a good logical safety measure?
Well, when we started to study more on the long QT syndrome, there was really no specific time when it could happen. It could happen during his sleep, could happen during the school day, but we thought maybe, while he's active.
It made us feel better because we were nervous about him playing soccer again. We were nervous. I mean, basically at that point, when you first hear it, him even leaving the house, but nervous about him doing anything actively. We also got with the school, and the school actually added another AED at one of its locations because they felt like the person that would be in charge of bringing one AED to the other side of the school wouldn't be able to, she wouldn't be able to run that fast. So they added a second AED, but it did make us feel more comfortable that he could return to activity. We wanted to be there for all of the events with it. But
and I'm assuming, Jackson, that the idea of having this as a piece of safety gear was more appealing to you than the idea of being disqualified from everything that you love doing.
Yes, sir. I definitely felt a lot safer.
And was there much of an option in your mind to just shut down the engine and say, I'm done with soccer, I'm just done? Or
no, I was confident that we would get past this.
Right. And I think you're like many of my athletes where we probably talked about it together, where I challenged you and said, is doing soccer O, oxygen, or O, optional? And I think I might have asked you, where would you rank your desire to continue soccer on a scale of 0 to 10? And I think you said 12, if I remember right. So that's been a meaningful part of who you are.
Yes, sir.
So then, and I think Farron or Farron's question about false hope, I know that we discussed and said when we do this AED strategy, that I probably said something like, in my 20 years, we've only had 4 AED rescue shocks given to 4 of over 600 treated kids, and that this AED will almost certainly will never be needed on you, but it's safety gear. Just like my fire extinguisher is safety gear, and I still haven't pulled the pin out to do anything in the house with it. It's safety gear. But I then probably said, I'm guessing that we said, Mom and Dad, it's going to be far more likely that you're going to use this AED on somebody called not Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You did say that.
Yes. You absolutely.
But now the amazing part is that has actually never happened in my career, where the family then called me back and said, remember what you said of us using our AED on somebody called not my child? Well, it happened. So you're the first where there's the fulfillment of that possible scenario. And so let's see exactly what am I talking about and not leave our live community in suspense. So Aaron's going to play a story of exactly what went down a bit ago. And then we're going to bring a very special person who is here because of you.
Players and parents watched a referee die, but through a miracle, he was brought back to life. Devin Walsh reports.
White ball.
The ref! The ref! The ref! Sudden death usually means overtime in sports.
Oh no, Buddy.
But for 60-year-old referee Buddy Jett, he dropped dead on the soccer field back in August. A parent capturing this footage while filming her daughter.
There was no real warning, no pains, no dizziness.
And just like in a soccer game, it took a team to bring him back to life.
Started the second half, and about 6 minutes in, I realized, and the next thing I woke up being resuscitated.
Jet's heart stopped 3 times in a matter of minutes back on a sweltering afternoon on August 22nd while he was refereeing a girls' soccer match. You can see from this photograph parents who just happened to work in the medical field hover under a tent trying to revive him.
Oh God, no, they're doing the CPR.
Emergency room doctor Stacy Upshaw, whose daughter is on the team, along with a paramedic and a nurse, jumped into action.
Pretty immediately, within 30 seconds or so, myself and some other people there familiar with CPR started giving chest compressions.
Everyone on the field in shock.
I see my mom run out there and I'm like, okay, something's definitely wrong.
I turned around to look at him and like his eyes, you could tell, like those eyes are forever stuck in my mind.
After they administered CPR, Buddy's heart stopped again. But a parent on a neighboring field came to his rescue and became his angel that day.
It's like this on the outside.
That angel is Jeff Piccone from Louisiana. He was in Mobile for his son Jackson's soccer game.
And my wife looked at me and said, "Do you have the AED?" And I said, "Oh my God, yes." And I just took off and ran in the opposite direction to run and grab it out of the car.
On Zoom, he told us he just happened to have an AED or defibrillator in his car because his son has a heart condition. Volunteers were able to shock Jet's heart back into rhythm.
My wife was standing right there when the doctor put it on the referee, and she just ripped it right open. She knew exactly what to do.
That golden hour, if we had not had the stars aligned the way they had for me, I wouldn't be here now.
Weeks after heart surgery, Jet is visiting the girls' team that saw what happened.
I made it.
He's also thanking his heroes who saved his life.
Really, really grateful. Really believe there is a higher power, and I'm not going to waste the second chance.
Now he's encouraging everyone to learn CPR because the parents who knew the life-saving measures saved him from sudden death.
Maybe I'll get to do another one else game if the doctor lets me. I don't know.
With photojournalist Ryan Letzfike, I'm Devin Walsh.
Buddy had 6 stents put in after his heart attack. He hopes to return to refereeing, but he hasn't been cleared just yet. He's also hoping to raise awareness for sports teams to have an AED nearby for emergencies.
Once there was a boy.
Well, wow, that's the first time I've seen that, and I just think the Piccone family are true heroes, what you all did, and I'm looking forward to meeting Mr. Buddy Jet. So, Aaron, bring on Mr. Jet.
Buddy's having some technical difficulties, so I'll try to get him on shortly. I'm working on it right now.
All right. Well, that kept me in suspense, so I'll let you go to work as we work to get Buddy back on. And take us back to that time when you heard about this.
So it was such a coincidence. It was when the lockdowns were going on everywhere, and Alabama was our nearest option to play soccer at the time. They, invited us to play soccer. We were ready to play soccer, and the day before, our coach got in touch with us. It was that evening. It was in the evening time, and said, "Hey, if we can get a team together, we can go to Alabama tomorrow and play if everybody can make it." And so we were like, "Yeah, let's go play soccer." So it was that short a time that it happened. My wife had just bought a new car because I usually drive him to soccer, and we were going to start taking her SUV to soccer games. And that something in my head said, "Oh, let me go put the AED in her car because we'll be using her vehicle for soccer now." So I did that. The morning before we left, I went and grabbed it. And we were in between games, and we were warming up for our second game, and we had no idea anything was going on at the field next to us. No, we weren't paying attention over there. And if a girl from that team wouldn't have walked by our direction and asked if anybody over here was a doctor or a nurse, well, we do home health physical therapy, and she said, is anybody a doctor or nurse because the man over there is having a heart attack? And just the coincidence of her coming down our way was just another wild coincidence, just the pieces of the puzzle that fit in to help save Buddy's life.
So before you ran and grabbed the AED, just a sidebar question, Jackson, did you guys win?
I don't remember.
I really don't remember.
I remember that right before we came back, we went to either Subway or Jimmy John's.
You remember getting food? He's
Yes.
a teenager. You remember?
So winning or losing seemed to become irrelevant in a hurry, but Subway or Jimmy John's, there's always room for. I see how this works. So then tell me, Jeff or Joanna, you run and get the AED. I suspect you probably ran faster than you've run in a long time. Yes. What happened when you got it back to them?
Well, after he handed it off to me, I ran for a while, and it was a relay race. About 2.5 soccer fields, and so somebody actually from our team, a dad, ended up taking it from me and running it there. And I actually stopped for a second, because I really felt like I couldn't run anymore. And then I realized I didn't know if anybody knew how to use it. I didn't know there was a doctor, paramedic there. I didn't know that there were healthcare professionals over there. So I picked up again and started running. But luckily when I got there, there were people that they were doing CPR when I got there. But right when I ran up, that's when they opened the AED. And of course it tells you everything to do, but they had some people there that already, knew in their head they've done it before, but the paramedics didn't come for, I would say.
It would seem like forever.
It seemed like forever. I would say between 5 and 10 minutes, the paramedics didn't get there. So there was a time frame between, and then they were doing CPR for a while before that, because we had to run there. So I can't imagine how long. You could tell that the people working on him were sweating, but you could also tell that he needed this device.
Yeah. And do you know? So you weren't the one who got to do the shock me button.
It wasn't.
No, I think there's the ER doctor.
It was the ER doctor that hit the button. It was pretty amazing to see everything work out. You could see the miracle of this device. It was pretty amazing. But going back to what he said, what you said that day did burn into our head. You said you will not need it and it became part of our soccer equipment, because those soccer fields are out in the middle of nowhere often. And even if there is an AED, it might be,
you don't know where it is. It could be in a gym. That's, soccer fields are often at different locations where there's no refreshment stands. You can't just leave a AED sitting out, so.
Right.
I think it would be a great idea for all coaches to have on them, or referee staff,
Yeah, and I think
our coach got one for our field.
Yes.
So
since this happened, he added one to the field.
Yeah, and we heard in that interview, which would fit, and I can't tell Buddy's age. He looks young like me. In fact, here he is. So this is phenomenal. So Buddy, I was just saying.
Good afternoon. I can't hear anybody. Sorry.
All right, can you hear us? If not, Aaron, I think we'll have to there. So we got to see him. So just for everybody on, this is live. So this is what you get when you do it live. I wanted to make sure people realize that the story really had not just an immediate happy ending, but still a great ending. He's alive. He's doing well. He got the 6 stents that you heard about. And so that should immediately tell our SADS Facebook Live and our SADS Live community that Buddy did not go down from long QT, CPVT, bileaflet mitral valve, prolapse, Brugada syndrome, any of our genetic heart conditions. He went down from what somebody in their 50s, 60s, 70s would go down from. You heard they mentioned he got 6 stents. That meant he has significant coronary artery disease of the left anterior descending coronary artery, the different coronary arteries that feed the heart muscle, the blood and oxygen, and those suddenly created a heart attack. That heart attack or that myocardial infarction then triggered the sudden cardiac arrest, sudden cardiac death episode. So a lot of people get confused with these words of the difference between a heart attack and an electrical attack, which is what really sudden cardiac arrest is, for which when that button was pushed, his rhythm was shocked back to normal. And so, and then the chest compressions continued until they could get him to the hospital, get those coronary arteries open back up, put a stent in place, and stents, multiple, to keep them open. And now he's in recovery and doing his cardiac rehab. And so we don't know why, when you saw him or heard that somebody's down, it didn't matter if you knew the why. It didn't matter if you knew it was long QT or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy or bileaflet mitral valve or anything. The drill is the same, isn't it? And that's the beauty of the chain of survival, is it's a one size fits all drill. And so maybe we can remind each other, you kind of came in towards the end of the drill, but you had said they were doing CPR. So Jackson, as you know, somebody goes down, the immediate thing we do is activate the chain of survival 911. We get to the person who's down, we immediately start doing chest compressions, and we've seen on the show how fast we need to do the chest compressions. Staying alive, fast chest compressions. Breathing with or without the rescue breath, just do the chest compressions. And then get the AED, the external defibrillator, retrieved and applied and shock delivered if it says shock me, or deliver shock, or whatever the audio says. And you all were part of that chain of survival. But a couple of things, that defibrillator sounds like you got to work out to get it. And you mentioned some ideas of way to make that time faster, because from the time of down to the time of shock is the difference between life and death. And so your coach did what? Because I think that's really cool what he decided to do, even though your coach is never going to use it on Jackson or any of his teammates. They may well use it on the next referee.
Yes, he added one to the field.
To the bathrooms.
Yes, to the bathrooms in the fields, which is extremely close to where they would be playing. And also doesn't depend on us having it. We have it, which is great, and he's in travel soccer, so we go to other places that might not have it, in remote locations. Yeah, knowing that that's there definitely would not be false hope for people, because
we had a tournament a few weeks ago. We were supposed to have a tournament in Foley, Alabama. And I reached out to Buddy and said, hey, we have a tournament in Foley. Maybe you'll either be working it. If not, we can meet for lunch, and actually get to meet each other. But they had thunderstorms the whole weekend, so that got canceled. So we always look forward to that tournament. It's a nice area to go
and
to.
So until now, when we brought Buddy on and you had him in the pre-meeting, was that the first time you saw each other again since the cardiac arrest?
I'm friends with him on Facebook, so him and I comment on each other's posts and things like that sometimes. So
that was the first live.
Yes.
Seeing each other, not in a picture.
I think I'm friends with his whole family on Facebook.
So Jeff, what does it feel like for both you and Joanna, you too, Jackson, to know, and to know without a doubt that if your AED wasn't where it was, and if you didn't run and go get it and run fast, practically speaking, because you said the paramedics didn't arrive for another 10 minutes, Buddy was a goner.
I think so.
And so what does that feel like, knowing that you, legit saved his life?
Feels good.
Feels
really
good.
good.
It feels good. It feels it feels like, that I mean, even though they cost money, it felt like it was such a small thing to have or do, to be able to save somebody, you know, just that one little extra thing that we had with us that we just happened to put in the car and leave in there because we knew we didn't necessarily need it for him anymore. That one little move was such a big impact. And all the years that I'm at healthcare and that you've been in healthcare, I've never been in that situation. So it just shows.
I have as a police officer.
Yes.
I've given CPR several times. It's been a long time. It's been over 20 years. But yeah, I did in the middle of the highway, middle of the road before. So in Louisiana heat. So.
Well, I think it's an incredible story. Like I said, for all of you out there, it's the first time that I'm aware of that one of my family's AEDs got used to save somebody else. And I think it just shows you this rescue gear is exactly that. And I think coming back to that question of the false hope, I know there are certain families where equipping them with that safety gear actually made them anxious. And so for some of those families where it's almost, like I said, 4 out of 600 kids, 20 years, since it's almost never going to be needed, if it makes you more anxious by having it than not having it, I'd rather take it away from you. And it sounds like it did not add anxiety. If in anything, it gave a peace of mind knowing that you had the antidote there and available if necessary to use.
Mm-hmm. I do think so. I think the only time you ever got anxious is when we watched the video with him when we got it. And he was a little younger at that point too. But watching the video of the AED is a lot because you have to know the ending, the happy ending before you watch all the stuff beforehand on how to use it. But we did feel it was important that he watched it because it empowers him one day to use it in the same way now that he's.
I was thinking back of the anxiety we had when he was an infant and they had him on the heart monitor. Mm-hmm. And a couple of times during the middle of the night, which he rarely slept anyway, but that heart monitor disconnected and went off, and that was
waking up to that.
Waking up to the alarm on the heart monitor going off. You know, it was always a false alarm because it had become disconnected. But there was a lot of anxiety with that.
Mm-hmm. But I still like the monitor than not having the monitor.
Yes.
So Jackson, I hear it was whispered that you have kind of a big deal coming up with a homecoming or is it a homecoming dance or is this high school football homecoming?
It's a homecoming dance.
Okay. So, homecoming dances can be pretty exciting.
This is the first
high school
dance. They didn't have anything last year at all. And he goes to an all-boys school. So this is a big deal.
Well, if you didn't want to have your AED there with you with your date, I would let you have a pass on it today because you'll never need to use this safety gear. So I don't want you feeling like you better show up when you bring her corsage and flower, and then you have the AED in your other hand. So, so we'd give you the AED night off. And I'm going to take one last question before saying thanks to you all. And this comes from Jennifer, and I appreciate Jennifer's question about being recently diagnosed. I'm not sure what she's been diagnosed with. She's on beta blocker, so I'm assuming maybe long QT syndrome. She doesn't yet have an AED, and her family loves to go hiking. Is that safe, being that far out in the woods in case something were to happen? And so for Jennifer, for all of you out there with that question, the reason I like the question a lot is in our program, if I have you well treated, you are never going to need that AED. So much so that we've kept the AED as the safety gear, as we've been discussing, for kids like Jackson and kids who are sort of where the AED makes sense to have its availability during almost to be where he is if he were to go down, to be available within 3 minutes of time, except at the homecoming dance where I'm giving him a free pass, as we said today. But for our adult patients, Jennifer, if your diagnosis is long QT syndrome and you're treated, we have not made it a point of having the adults get an AED for the most part, just because the logic breaks down. There's not a chaperone who's going to be there. But there are times when having the family AED makes sense. And in one of those is, you mentioned hiking trips or camping or going to the lake where an AED is not 10 minutes away, which it looks like it was going to be, at least in Buddy's case, longer than 10 minutes if Jeff did not run and get the AED. Now you're talking at a lake hiking where you're 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away from an AED, as in no chance. So sometimes it makes sense to have that AED for those out of reach places. But as a general rule, I have not had my adult patients feel the need to go acquire an AED for myself. Andrea is sharing that her son died at age 17. And Andrea, I don't know if that's recent or a long time ago. It doesn't matter. I'm so sorry about your son's death and what you experienced then and continue to experience. So I'm so sorry about that. And then our final question is, did you need a doctor's order for the AED? So when you guys got it, did you need to have me write you an order to be able to get your family an automatic external defibrillator?
No, we just ordered it online.
And so there's many sources online. I'm curious, which one did you use to get it?
Start defibrillator.
Yeah.
I think we went straight to Philips, right? Did we go straight to Philips?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
So I went straight to Philips for the day we used it. I went online and ordered new pads. Like that day while I was still at the soccer field. But
yeah. And I think that's the point, is they're so easy to get now. You can order them online. There's the website www.aedprofessionals.com that has them. You can go to the company directly. The Piccone family got the Philips Heart Start device. I like that one. I like all of them. And then, as many of you have known, we in our program and SADS have partnered with a company called LifeSure, and they do an amazing job running interference with the insurance companies to help try to obtain the reimbursement for this as an appropriate device, piece of equipment. And so there's many ways to secure this piece of safety gear, and it's just one component of the chain of survival. You go down, the sooner we get electricity to that person who went down from sudden cardiac arrest, the greater our chance of short-circuiting that sudden cardiac arrest, preventing a tragedy of sudden cardiac death, just like Piccone, Jackson's mom and dad are directly responsible for doing for Buddy. So I'm so glad to hear the story. I wish we could have had Buddy on for the full, but you did see him, everybody. The story has a great ending, 6 stents and all. So for all of you who joined us live, thanks for being with us. Those who are going to watch this, I'm glad you turned it on. Those who will go to our website, www.sads.org, and go to the top right corner and hit that red Donate Now button and partner with us philanthropically, thank you for your gift. We can't do what we do, providing the support that our families so desperately need and deserve without your support. So thank you for that. And to the Piccone family, Jackson, have an awesome time at your first homecoming dance. And mom and dad, thank you so much for joining us and for doing what you did to be a lifesaver. So all of you out there, join us again next time. I think we're in 2 weeks, but we'll update you as to what our next Friday get together is. So you see, for more information on SCA, Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness, go to that website also, and you can see what you can do to help spread the word this month of October for Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness Month. Thanks, Jackson and Joanna and Jeff. Blessings to you and to all of you. Until next time, be well.